I was meeting an American delegation just now, and I was telling them that please, the new government of Mr. Trump, be clear on this point. When you export unprocessed coffee, as we have been doing all this time, you get about $2.5 a kilo. The price is now a bit higher, but normally it was around $2.5 a kilo of very good coffee. What they call screen 18, the one with good seeds. When somebody goes and makes coffee, powdered coffee out of that, he may get as much as $40. Now, according to the present value of business in the world of coffee, the present value is $460 billion, the value of coffee business in the world. How much are the coffee exporting countries getting out of that? Only $25 billion. $460 billion, but all the coffee growing countries of the world, all of them, Brazil, Colombia, Vietnam, Uganda, Africa, you get $25 billion. Our wonderful Africa, out of that, gets $2.5 billion. And 1.6 billion of that is coming to Uganda now. But this is because of the high coffee prices. Normally Uganda gets about 900 million out of the 2.5 billion. So, now, if you take a raw material like cotton, so in other words, in every kilogram of coffee, Africa is donating about more than $20 to the rest of the world, if not more. But also donating jobs. If you take textiles, cotton has got like 6 job levels. You grow the cotton, that's some job. When you harvest the cotton, you gin it, you remove the seeds. That's another level of jobs, the ginneries. Now, much of the African cotton has been ending there. They export what they call lint cotton. Cotton without seeds, after removing the seeds. Then somebody else goes and does the spinning. Spinning is another level of jobs. Then the weaving, that's another level of jobs. Then the printing of colors, that's another level of jobs. Then the tailoring now to make garments, that's another level of jobs. Of course, there are other values in cotton which Africans were not bothered with. Gunpowder is from cotton. People don't know that. That's why the Chinese were taking a lot of cotton. Because part of the cotton is what you use to make nitrocellulose, which makes the gunpowder. So that's another bottleneck. They're relying on raw materials, exporting. You are donating money and donating jobs. When you see these children dying in the Mediterranean, going to Europe, this is the problem. They are being killed by these economies of raw materials. So you can go to every raw material, whether it is agro-based or minerals. Some people wanted us to export. We have got very good iron ore here. The best in the world, high grade, 70% pure. It's the best. There's no, only the one of Peru is near, about 50%, but ours is much higher. So some people wanted us to export iron ore or butare, we call it in our language, to India. And one of our districts, where some people who are here, whom I see come from, had already made a deal with India that we sell our iron ore to them as iron ore. I said over my dead body, I have banned all the export of unprocessed minerals from here. Let them stay in the ground. When the grandchildren come, they will get them out. So, a ton of iron ore at that time they would give us $47. Then they go, because it is very high quality, a ton of iron ore gives you 700 kilograms of steel, almost 1-to-1. Now, from a ton of steel, that time they were getting $900. So, the sleepy Africans here, the French have a good word, dormir beaucoup, that we are sleeping too much. The sleepy Africans would get $47. A clever outsider would get $900 from almost the same amount of. Later on, when the price had come down a bit of steel, it was about 600, 700, I don't know where it is now. But it's much more than what we would be getting. So I said, no way. Let the iron ore stay in the ground. Because then you would be losing jobs, losing money. So raw materials are a curse. I don't know what this forum has, what position they have taken on it, but really that is a real curse. Now, sometimes when Africans wake up a bit, they concentrate on import substitution. But that's not good enough, because the internal market is not big enough. We must, yes, do import substitution, but also engage in export promotion, because the export markets are bigger than the internal market. That's also another area to look at. Now, the other bottleneck are the small economies, the balkanization of Africa into these small markets. Because when people really wake up, you will soon find that the internal market is not enough. In Uganda, when these Ugandans got some stability and woke up, in very short time, they found that everything was in surplus. The internal market was not enough. The milk production, 86 were producing 200 million liters a year. We are now producing 5.3 billion liters of milk a year. But the Ugandans consume only 800 million liters. So more than 4 billion liters of milk is surplus. The internal market is not enough. Maize, cement, steel, all those products, tires and so on, industrial and even agricultural. The internal market is not enough. So that's why the regional market becomes very crucial. I'm very grateful to the East African leaders when they agreed, including people like His Excellency Chikwete, when they agreed that we revive the East African community and expand it. And also all the African leaders, because they have agreed on the CFTA, Continental Free Trade Area of the whole of Africa. It's already signed, but the only problem is implementation. So the forum should look at how we can intensify, because part of the problem of the CFTA is the infrastructure. At one time, we were talking of the railway from Djibouti to Dakar, from Mombasa to Kisangani. But now, I no longer hear about that. So in terms of our sensitization, we should emphasize that the market, the infrastructure to support the market. Then infrastructure. That's another bottleneck. Because we were talking with the World Bank. I went to Nairobi for the World Bank meeting, and I said, you wonderful people, you talk of the private sector-led growth. Yes, but the private sector needs low costs of doing business, which means low cost of electricity, low cost of transport. Labor is low cost, that's no problem in Africa. The labor is not expensive. But you need low cost of money in the bank, and so on, which means infrastructure. So infrastructure must be emphasized, not just, and when the World Bank talk of infrastructure, sometimes they talk only about the roads. The roads are good for cars and passengers, but not good for cargo. For the cargo, we need the railway. The railway and the water transport. They are much cheaper. So that's another bottleneck. Then, of course, education and health, the human resource. The human resource, you cannot have the transformation if your people are not educated, they are not healthy, they are not skilled. Here in Uganda, we have been having another bottleneck. This is a big proportion of the population outside the money economy, only working for the stomach, for eating. Because here in Uganda, you don't have to be very, very brilliant to survive. You can survive even if you are not. You eat mangoes, you go to your relatives, you spend all the time. Your relatives see you coming. Where are you going? I have come to see you. Imagine. I have come to see you. The man is not working, he's not what, but he's eating. So, we checked when we came into government, and we found that by independence, only 4% of the homesteads were in the money economy. The rest, 96%, were outside the money economy, working only for the stomach, for what they call subsistence, that you even if